Okay, my name is Aniyah Mallett, and this is my creative critical reflection. So basically, we start off with conventions and challenges in the horror genre, and some conventions in the horror genre consist of dark and isolated places and mysterious or unknown threats, or sounds or music to create tension, and the final girl trope. So, for the conventions of horror movies, you would mostly expect like things that you would expect to see would be like cemeteries or monsters or some type of something scary that you would like see like on Halloween. That's probably what you would expect on a horror movie. Anything but like depending on the type of horror you're watching, like the subgenre, it could be gory, it could be more laid back, it could have less gore, it could have no gore at all. It depends on what your preference is for horror movies or horror genres. And some challenges, or the way that we challenge these conventions, was we didn't add music that would necessarily create tension, like loud upbeat music that would like keep going or keep or having your heart racing when you're trying to figure out what's going to happen. But it kind of keeps a steady pace to contradict that feeling of tension while you're watching the film, which I think is pretty cool. The music, I wouldn't say is necessarily happy, like upbeat music. That's really the same thing as music that's used to create tension, or sounds that are used to create tension. But it has like, because it's steady and calm, it gives you a feeling of not knowing what to expect. Like you don't know what's going to happen, so it's kind of like it's not as like, it makes you feel more confused about what's going to happen, if that makes sense. Okay, and one thing that we did do is the killer does have a mask, so that is kind of a convention. Okay, and for the issues, for mostly for horror films like in the horror genre tend to focus on, when it comes to certain horror films, they focus on like internal issues and external issues, like family problems or problems with self-identity or self-sexuality, or however this person or whatever that person may be dealing with, that would resort to a killing or some sort of like destruction or mass happening, or whatever happens in that certain film. Just like everything leads to something in most horror films, and usually self-deprecating issues are, and external deprecating issues are the root cause of whatever the killer is doing. And our movie doesn't really have the time to go over those issues, but I feel like we would have if we had more time. And one of my favorite examples for the self-deprecating issue that horror films present in movies is Carrie, the 1976 version or the 2013 version. It portrays this girl who's overly hated and scrutinized because she's different from everybody else. And basically how when she's ostracized so badly, even from her own mother, just for being born, she realizes that she has powers and gets back when she like gives out. Like, I don't want to spoil it or anything though, but it causes her to unleash her anger, which is just like horror films like to build up, and how like the person cracks over time and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool. That's also why I enjoy this movie so much. And for our target audience, I don't think our audience has to be for anybody in particular, but if it was, I would say it was for young adults, people that can handle like death and scary themes, mostly because horror is not for everyone. And I think if you want to watch it, you should watch it. And if you don't think you would be into it, don't watch it. This goes for anything. According to statistics, 58% of men tend to enjoy horror films more, and 48% of women tend to enjoy horror films. So men tend to enjoy horror films more, or slasher films in general more. But yeah, it's for anybody who just wants to enjoy a little thing, It's just for anyone who enjoys horror or anything scary. And for the distributing media, the best part about distributing media is that you can choose the way you want to go, and you might have like a few preferences on how you want your media to be distributed. Like, I like Netflix a lot and Tubi. I find Tubi that, like, since our audience would be mostly directed to kids, I think people who don't want to buy the movie, it would be able to go on Tubi and people could watch it for free on there, or they could watch it on Netflix. And the way that would work is, first you would film, or like you would distribute that film on that platform by finding somebody to distribute it to. In this case, I chose Netflix, or you can choose more than one, like Hulu or whatever you choose to distribute it to, and then you sell it to them. And by marketing it, you make a trailer and you just basically sell that to them. To not sell it, but you give that to them, and then they look that over. And if you do good, then before the movie comes out, you can like do surveys or polls and get the people's idea on what they think about your movie or your trailer. And the more you're able to see how the more people that connect with that movie or wherever they would want it more, that would probably be your best option to connect it with the audience that chooses Netflix, or that might choose Tubi, or whatever they choose. They want it to be on like the majority, that would be the one you would want to pick, just to appeal to a larger audience. And lastly, we have improvements. So I wouldn't really say that we really had anything to improve on, besides I think it got easier towards the end to actually record and get what we wanted to done. And when we got it done, it was kind of easy. But at the start, I think it was a little hard because like it was kind of like embarrassing or like weird. But there was a lot of people around us, so I think it was also pretty cool that we got to do this in general. And we didn't really have any equipment either. We were just like using our phones or using a phone, and then we used like an editing app. We used CapCut,